Welcome to People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose.
People of Purpose is a podcast of inspiring people whose stories help you see things differently, live with intentionality, elevate the way you participate in the world, and take the necessary leaps in your life to seek and find your passions. Come with us and develop the courage to wholeheartedly pursue your purpose and unleash your truest potential. Hello, Ryan Aylis, and welcome to People of Purpose podcast. Really excited to have you here today. I have my business partner, Philip Loudon, and then he knew you from Bali, and I'm really excited to get to know your story and kind of help People of Purpose really plug into what you're doing, because you've done a lot of purpose-driven activity, whether it's in business and social entrepreneurship, and now what you're doing with Heart Rhythm and Hive. I'm really excited to get to know you and your story. Thanks for being here today.
I'm excited to be here with both of you.
Cool. So I have my business partner, Phil, here because he's the one who originally met you out in Bali. You guys were connecting over some of the stuff you were putting together with Hive out there. So I guess I just wanted to give him a chance to kind of explain how you two got connected and why he recruited you for being a guest today on the show.
Yeah, so I guess I met Ryan through a mutual friend of ours. I was in a period where I was ending a former business and looking into opportunities for the future. And a thing that I was really interested in is learning about creating communities of purpose-driven individuals. And through that kind of quest, I was connected to Ryan, who was actively working on these types of projects. And and in that time, I was actually planning on interviewing Ryan myself. So I began to research a lot about the history of what you were creating, what you had created in your life. And it was just really, really impressive to see kind of your progression as a purpose-driven individual. And it was definitely very inspirational to see your path and your journey and how you do your purpose projects in such an impactful way. And I think with Tanner's podcast, People of Purpose, you just seem like the very appropriate guest to be on here. And I think there's a lot that you have to share, a lot that you probably learned along the way as well.
I'm excited to be here with both of you. I think it's been about 2 years since we were together in Bali, Philip, and I'm now in Austin, Texas. So not too far away from you all, and I guess at least you in Kansas City. And so very excited to be here today and talk more about how to find your purpose and then how to create a life that's in alignment with your purpose. For sure.
One thing that I noticed in researching you was how reflective you are in the written format. I think it's rare to find someone that is so busy with so many things that they're operating and maintaining and growing. You find time for these long form written reflections. I'm really curious about kind of how that has really shaped, how has that stayed with you through your journey? How did that get created, and why do you still find this time to write these long form things? What does that do for you?
I love writing. Writing for me is very therapeutic and very relaxing. Last weekend, I checked myself into a hotel here in Austin for just one night because I wanted to have 24 hours just to write. And during that time, I wrote the 10-page article on LinkedIn about the process of creating purpose-driven leaders. And reflecting on how my time at Harvard Business School's MBA program and going through different personal growth programs like Landmark and Tony Robbins ended up leading me toward my own purpose, which is building organizations that train purpose-driven leaders. And today, now leading Hive, co-leading Heart Rhythm as two organizations that are purpose-driven and making a difference in the world.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, I really like how you create a synthesis of the things that you see are working really well, and you also draw on your own experience and you put your unique touch to it.
Thank you.
I think that's really neat to see. I guess I wanted to start off with your background. You wrote this long form thing on your Hive site about your story and your journey. You mentioned the power of being you didn't identify as a small town American boy. You identified as a citizen of this broader world with diverse cultures. Can you share some of how your family really shaped your journey into purpose at a young age?
Absolutely. My mom and dad met in 1978 in England. My dad is an American. He as a priest, a preacher, a minister in the Episcopalian faith, and my mom is a social worker from England. And they met, 40 years ago now, and fell in love and had me. And so I grew up half British and half American. And I remember spending every other summer in England and spending time with my family there and spending time exchanging houses in different parts of Europe. So we had a pretty middle class upbringing, living on the salary of a minister, maybe making $34,000 a year, but we were still able to travel. And I think that was probably one of the best possible impacts on me as a young person. And what it gave me was a sense of a multicultural identity, a sense that I'm a human first. And, I'm number one, a soul, a kind, loving soul. Number two, I'm a human being. And number three, I happen to have been born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which makes me an American. And so those were the three layers of identity that were very helpful to me. Being that my dad was a priest and my mom was a social worker, it gave me a sense of wanting to use my life to help others, however I could. And in fast forward, 35 years, my dad passed away in 2014 from leukemia. My mom passed away in 2012 from brain cancer. And those two events happening in my life between age 28 and 30 really was a shock to my system, but also what it led to was a silver lining of having an even deeper commitment in their memory to want to use the rest of my life to make a positive contribution to society, to humanity, to my community, to my family. So that's a little bit about how I became who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that no matter how successful you were at like iContact, for example, you constantly had this drive to go and create the solutions or be a part of creating the solutions for eradicating poverty, ending war, finding like environmental sustainability. Do you think that was just an innate thing you were kind of born with, or was that a product of kind of the culture and family that you were raised in?
I was raised in a Christian background. I would say half Christian, half Buddhist. My mother was more on the Buddhist side. My dad obviously was a Christian minister. And the thing that ties the Christian faith and the Buddhist faith together is a desire to make the world better, a desire to reduce suffering, both personal suffering as well as the suffering of others. And when you look at what someone like Jesus of Nazareth did, 2000 plus years ago now, he lived with the model of compassion first. He lived with a very conscious state and was able to do a lot of good in the world because of that. And so I think what I reflected on was the question, the golden rule. How do you treat others like you'd want yourself to be treated? How do you live up to the platinum rule, which is treating others as they want to be treated? Yeah. Which sometimes is different than how you would want to be treated, and to really ask questions about, who they are and what their needs are. And then I started thinking about what are the, this is 20 years ago now in the early 2000s, but what were the biggest challenges from having a beautiful society? What were the biggest challenges that prevented us from living in a world where every human being has access to education, healthcare, and the basic needs, things like internet, running water. And so I started studying global economic development. I majored in economics in college. A large part of my MBA, I focused on taking classes around global economics. And so I started to think about how do we, as a millennial generation, create over the next 50 years a world in which we don't have such disparity between the haves and the have-nots, but a world in which every human being can have access to basic human needs. So that became a deep passion of mine, especially between, say, 2005 and 2015. Yeah, that's gorgeous. I just got done reading about your first trips through Uganda. And there was a slum there that you said had 1 million people in that slum.
and it kind of shifted your perspective on just giving to charity versus actually investing in like local entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
I guess,
when I was, when I was 24 in 2008, my college roommate, Rowie Rosenblith, took me to Uganda and Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of that, we went to two places that changed my life that were very memorable. First, we went to Gulu, Uganda in the north, which was a town that had been ravaged from the Lord's Revolutionary Army. It was run by an individual named Joseph Kony, and he had essentially abducted a lot of school children and became part of his army. And so he would put these 10-year-old boys into his army. So I visited this town only a few years after this had all happened, and started building relationships with some of the schools and clinics there. And part of what we did at iContact, my tech company, iContact's still around today as a well-known email marketing software company. We had a corporate social responsibility program where we gave 1% of our profits, 1% of our revenues actually, away to charity each year. And so because of that, we were able to give away quite a few $100,000 a year for many, many years. And we would allow our employees to vote on the nonprofits to give to. And so what often happened is people would say, hey, Ryan, what are some of the ones you like? And I would nominate a few of them. And so then in the following summer, I'd go visit. And I got to visit places like Gulu, Uganda, and visit some of the schools that we were giving money to. And then the second trip that we did, we went to Nairobi, Kenya, which is very close to Uganda. And we went to Kibera, which is one of the world's largest slums. The largest urban slums in the world are in Mumbai, Rio de Janeiro, and Nairobi. And so we went to the Kibera slum in Nairobi, Kenya, only a few years after there had been some election violence there. And this is a place about the size of Central Park in New York. So it's relatively small, but it has over 1 million people living there in relatively small, sort of tin hut type structures. And we got a chance to visit and get involved with financially supporting some of the local organizations that were providing entrepreneurship training and various basic needs for the people that live there. So those were two early experiences in my life.
For sure. Yeah. It's beautiful to hear that that must have been so amazing to get to be immersed in the place that you were actively investing in, and then come back and like have even more, passion and enthusiasm for what you were creating as a B Corp. I particularly really liked hearing about the B Corp. This is only the second time I've heard about this concept. Even it doesn't seem like it's this popular way of running a business, but you even did like a study on it, how it actually helps grow iContact in different ways and increase some of the valuation. And you thought it involved like more employee engagement and things of that nature.
Well, yeah, we were at iContact the 89th B Corp ever back in 2009. There's now over 4,900 B Corps that have been certified by the nonprofit B Labs to be socially and environmentally responsible. So we were in the first 100 ever, which was exciting. We were certainly one of the first tech companies to be a B Corp. And then since then, my company Hive is a benefit corp, which is similar to a B Corp, but it's actually since 2014, there's been a legal designation in the state of Delaware where any corporation can become a benefit corporation and amend its charter at the beginning or later, such that it can make stakeholder interests like the environment, like reducing poverty, equal in its charter to shareholder interests. And so you're not just legally required to optimize short-term profits, but you can make a holistic decision to optimize long-term profits and long-term impact by being a benefit corporation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Love to hear that. So along your first like 27 years, I guess, when you were kind of learning how the internet worked, learning your role in that, like creating websites. I loved your first business at 11 years old, helping people set up AOL and sending pictures to their grandkids. It's really awesome to hear like how entrepreneurial you are and like in your core, such a young age. What do you think you've taken from that first like 27 years of your life into what you're focusing on now with Hive?
Yeah. I think I can break my life into three phases. The first 18 years growing up, 18 to 27 building iContact, and then 27 to 37 building Hive and Heart Rhythm. And I'm about to have my first son in about 6 weeks, which will probably start the fourth major phase of my life. And so I would say from 18, I was going to college at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I did 2 years of college, and then I dropped out to build iContact as a software company. We grew from 0 employees to 300 within 9 years. We grew from 0 to 50 million a year in sales. And we had a really great exit in 2012. We sold to a public company for $169 million. And so at 27, I was financially successful. But there was something lacking on the inside. I was looking for a purpose that was bigger than myself. I was looking for that magical spark that I often found in the eyes of people that were working on their passion projects. And I loved software, I loved technology, and I was looking for a way to utilize my life to make a bigger difference and work in a field where I could work with people and technology. And so I ended up going to business school. I did 2 years at Harvard Business School, did my MBA there, which was a really meaningful opportunity and moment. Number one, to get into Harvard Business School without a college degree, I think is generally a hard thing to do. And I was very lucky that they accepted me and took my life experience building iContact to be equivalent to the college degree. It was also a meaningful moment because it was the last 3 months of my mother's life. She passed away from a brain tumor just actually only about a week after I got into Harvard, and that I was able to tell her that and see a smile on her face, which was really beautiful. I went to the 2 years at HBS, and then of course, what I'm thinking about the whole time is how do I want to use my life to build something bigger than myself? What do I want to do next? And so my co-founder, a good friend of mine from San Francisco, a woman by the name of Anima Sarah Lavoie, she and I were working on a tech startup in San Francisco together called Connect.com at the time. And she said, Ryan, why don't you do this landmark program? And so I went to this personal growth workshop. That opened up my eyes. And what I decided to do after doing that program was I wanted to build a global community of purpose-driven leaders called hive.org. And so that's what I've been working on since 2014. And now what we do is help leaders create a plan for their life that incorporates a purpose statement and creates a life where they can love what they're doing and do something they're good at, and do something the world needs, and truly find a purpose that's bigger than themselves. So that I'm sure we'll talk more about that, but that's how I ended up going from North Carolina tech CEO to, at the time, a California-based purpose workshop leader.
Yeah, we can dive into Hive stuff. I guess in general, how do you define purpose? What is purpose for you?
Yeah, I mean, purpose is the reason for living. It's your dharma, it's your calling, it's your mission, it's your passion. It's what gets you out of the bed excited each night. It's what keeps you up later than you should be working on something meaningful. It's what allows you to get into flow state, like what Macaulay Csikszentmihalyi writes about, the ability to get into flow where time doesn't even exist in your consciousness anymore, and you just create. And so for people who are manifestors or manifesting generators, who are creators, builders, entrepreneurs, innovators, anyone that likes to create things, it's possible to enter this flow state. You could look at the same thing with artists, with athletes, anybody that's doing what they love, where they can reach a high level of mastery of it. And so purpose is the energy that drives you forward toward creating and building something that matters in the world.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful definition of purpose. Yeah, Ryan, I'm really curious. I know you're an extremely high achieving individual. Like, you started entrepreneurship when you're 9 or 11, and you started iContact when you're still a teenager, right? And I know you've been working on Hive for the past 8 years, or more, around 8-10 years. And I'm just really curious about how that journey has been for you and what you've learned about helping people to actualize their purpose and creating situations where you can really help people to actualize and integrate their purpose. Because I know you guys have the one page to get people aligned with purpose. Then I'm just curious about your journey with learning how to assist and help people to increase the impact of their purpose and align with it.
Yeah, so in 2014, we hosted the first Hive workshop in San Francisco. We had recruited 34 friends from 12 different countries to fly in. And the original goal for Hive is to build a global community of purpose-driven leaders. Now, in order to be a purpose-driven leader, you really can be anybody. All you need to be a purpose-driven leader is a mission that's bigger than yourself. And that could be raising a family. That could be educating a school. That could be building a water treatment plant. That could be building a tech company. That could be working in government. It can be any effort of contribution that makes a positive difference to a community, to a society, or globally. So everyone has this opportunity to become a purpose-driven leader. And yet I still see in the world, I don't have actual statistics, I just have a lot of anecdotal evidence. I would probably argue that the majority of Americans feel a lack of purpose in their work. And so what I do is I help people ensure that they're using their time on the planet, the very element that they're trading their life force for, to create something that matters to them and to create something that's inspiring and meaningful to others. And what I'll get at coming to Hive is a lot of people, we have two different types of people. We've got people in their 20s and 30s that are just creating their first purpose statement, their first life plan. And then we have people often in their 50s and 60s who have been working for 20 plus years, who are now ready to, they've maybe made some money and now they're ready to do purpose-driven work. And so they come to Hive to prepare for the next 5 to 10 years of their life. And that over the last 8 years, we've graduated 3,500 people from our program, and every single one of them has left with a framed one-page life plan. And at the very top of that life plan, they write out their purpose statement. And what I mean by a purpose statement, it's a 15-word or less sentence that describes what their purpose on earth is for the next few years of their life. Now, your purpose is going to shift over the course of a lifetime. But at any given moment, you should be able to go up at a cocktail party or a brunch or with friends and be able to say, hey, my name is Ryan, and right now what I'm really passionate about, what I'm working on is this, in a way that lights you up inside. And so I find that the world is divided into people who are lit up inside and excited, and maybe that's 25% of humanity, and people who are sort of a little bit dead inside and not so excited about what they're doing, and that's probably 75% of humanity. And so my goal is, how can we get 100% of humanity excited about living and excited about the work they're doing? So that's what we're working on with Hive.
Beautiful. What's your purpose statement?
You know, it's a great question. I'm hosting a Hive coming up in about 2 weeks. It's going to be May 7th and 8th in Austin, Texas. It's going to be our first Hive in 24 months. The last event I hosted was January of 2020, just before COVID hit. And COVID was a difficult time because what I love is hosting in-person gatherings. I didn't want to bring the Hive curriculum online because I feel like there's so much Zoom calls and there's so much online these days. What I actually wanted to differentiate with was the in-person experience of what we built. And so I'm excited to be doing this new Hive here in Austin. And as part of that, I'm redoing my purpose statement. In fact, I'm in the process of redoing it right now. And the reason why is because right now in life, I do two different things, and they're very integrated. And I'm looking for I'm looking to coach myself about the wording of how to integrate the two different things I do in life. And so the first thing I do, and this is where been spending most of my time the last year and a half, is I'm building a digital asset hedge fund. I'm building a crypto hedge fund that is that currently manages about roughly $100 million. And we're helping grow assets for individuals and institutions through a market neutral crypto fund that invests in decentralized finance. Now, that company is called Heart Rhythm, and I'm a managing partner at Heart Rhythm. I joined about a year ago. And Heart Rhythm's mission is to build a regenerative engine that funds social impact projects, that funds philanthropic projects around the world. And the organization, Heart Rhythm, takes 5% of its profits and gives it away to charity each year. And as we get bigger and bigger, that'll scale up to 50% of profits that we'll be giving away annually. So what I found was that there was an opportunity to utilize this new system of digital assets as the new financial system is being built around the world to build a sustainable funding source for so many meaningful impact projects around the world, as well as be able to provide a foundational level of compensation and pay where I could really build my family in an easeful way and have sort of the baseline needs just taken care of. Then on top of that, I'm working on building Hive and hosting a workshop every 3 months. I do that on the weekends. And so Hive is sort of my burn the midnight oil, in my free time, in the nights and weekends work that I do. And the thing that I'd like to figure out over the next 10 years is, how do I scale Hive to be not just an impactful program that transforms people's lives, but an impactful program that transforms people's lives that allows the organization to not just reach 500 to 1,000 people a year, but the question I'm asking myself over and over is, how do I reach 1 million people a year in person? And so what's in my head right now is building a franchise model where we train the trainers, where my work becomes, yes, training the individuals, but actually once they graduate, then they have the opportunity, if they wish, to be trained to become a Hive certified facilitator. And then these certified facilitators essentially own the franchise of their town or of their city. And the math I'm doing is, if I can get 1,000 trainers doing 1,000 people per year, then we're at 1 million people a year. And so, that's what I'm trying to think. How do you scale a workshop business to reach 1 million plus people per year around the world? So that's what I'm thinking about. And so my purpose statement, I don't have the wording for it yet, but I hope to, by the end of Hive coming up in a week and a half, it's probably going to be something along the lines of building companies that building purpose-driven companies and leaders that help create a new model for inspired living, something along those lines.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one thing I noticed you do a little bit differently than some of the other programs that are similar in nature is you focus the purpose just on like the next phase, like what is next on your plate. And I think that a lot of other people want you to stamp your purpose as it's like this permanent thing. You want to share more about like how you made that decision for it to just be a part-time thing? Oh man.
Oh, hi, Connor.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah.
That was super weird. The internet just shut down.
I think we lost your microphone, Tanner.
You may have to switch to your new mic.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yep, much better.
Awesome. Wow, that was crazy. Okay, it looks like recording's still in progress, so I guess we're good on that. Yeah, I mean, I'll have my editor cut that part out, I guess. What I was saying is I noticed you differentiate yourself a little bit from some of these other workshops. One, you make it extremely affordable. You were talking about doing a $350 thing, or I think it's even $250, something really cheap compared to a $3,500 weekend. So it's accessible. And then two, you make the purpose not feel like this big thing you got to commit to for your whole life. It's just like, what's the next phase of my life's purpose? Tell me more about the decisions to design it in that way rather than, a different way.
Yeah, well, I mean, when the McDonald's brothers started McDonald's, they could have charged $2 for a hamburger, but they didn't. They charged 15 cents. And that choice to do low price, high volume enabled McDonald's to sell hundreds of billions of hamburgers. And so instead of being a niche hamburger stand in San Bernardino, California, Ray Kroc came in, grabbed their model, and now it's one of the most successful franchises in the world and one of the biggest owners of real estate in the world. And so, if I wanted to serve 10,000 people, I would charge, $1,500, $2,000 for a weekend, and I'd do these programs, 50 people at a time. But what I'm interested in is how do you serve 100 million people? You can think about it by 2050 here, there's going to be 10 billion people. And so if you want to serve 1% of humanity, you got to serve 100 million people. And so when I'm thinking of, what is my moonshot that I want to build, I would like to build a workshop that helps people come alive, that helps them find a big reason for living and helps them live in an inspired way. And so by putting it at the price point of $350, what it enables us to do is make it such that nearly anybody can do that. And we'll probably have even lower prices when we do it in other countries around the world. But at $350, you could work a week of work and save up that money to do it, even in a $15 an hour job. And so we're wanting to make a program that regardless of whether you're 18 or 80, you've got enough resources to be able to do, so that there's no friction around sharing it with your friend. I've seen a lot of leadership training programs be priced at $4,000, $8,000, and it just makes it out of reach for 99% of people. And we want to be the opposite. We want to be the program that we can get tens of millions of people to come through.
Nice.
Yeah,
I love that. One thing that Phil showed me that I didn't read about recently from you, but you had this model for how people could actually live together in these communities. Mm-hmm. I'm really interested in that. Phil and I run a real estate company, and we're trying to think about like what our ultimate purpose with real estate can be. And I think that model of like this community, you had urban communities and then you had like non-urban communities, and it was like going to be some sort of network that exists in multiple countries. Where are you at with that project? Is that still something that's part of the Hive system?
Yeah, it's been something I've been working on for 6 years now. So when I started going to Burning Man in 2012, I started to realize that my happiest week of my year was the week that I was at Burning Man. Nice. And I started asking myself why, and it was because I was living with 300 friends. And then I'd go back to my normal life, and I'd either be living with myself or maybe one friend or maybe one partner. And I tended to be less happy when I wasn't around inspiring people. And so I was just like, very simple question. What would it take to live with 250 plus inspiring people, 365 days a year? Now, that doesn't mean in the same house, but it means in the same community within walking distance. And so my dream for the last 6 years, since I've been attending Camp Mystic at Burning Man, is how do I become part of, for myself, my wife, Morgan, my son, Apollo, my family, a community where I can go on a walk within a 20-minute radius. You're never really going to walk more than a mile, but within that 1 mile radius, I want to be able to find a couple hundred really inspiring people that I would feel safe leaving my son to play with, who could be inspiring mentors for my children, who I could learn from, who are doing meaningful things in the world, who are interesting, purpose-driven people. And so I've had many iterations of thinking about how to do this. Originally, we were going to build a building in San Francisco, and we were going to do an urban co-living in San Francisco. Then I moved to Bali for 2 years, and I started working on a very large 2,000 person town that's now under construction with a group of friends from Burning Man that we had met down there. And then I started spending time in Costa Rica, and I now have 5 separate groups of friends building small villages in Costa Rica between Nosara, Dominical, and San Jose. And so it's now happening. The thing with real estate that you guys know, being in the business, is from idea to execution, from idea to financing to execution, it's often a 7 to 10 year process. Mm-hmm. It's not a 12-month process. And so the project we're working on the west coast of Bali, we started working on in early 2021. It's now 18 months later, and they're just breaking ground. They're just building the first buildings for the 2,000 person town they're building there in Nayani, Bali. So that's exciting. And my good friend Stephen Brooks in Costa Rica is building a new village called Alegria, which I'm very excited about. That's going to be a 250 person village right next door to La Ecovia. And so that's going to be an exciting thing. And so now it's happening. I've decided that I don't want to be the owner of a real estate business, at least not right now. What I want to focus on is my gift of building crypto hedge funds and building purpose workshops. And through that, I can be the person who has the capital and the people, and bring those two components to the table and let someone else develop the construction, the permitting, the plans, the buildings, with our help in building the community. So that's what's in process now.
Cool. That sounds like an interesting opportunity to keep in mind in the future. As our company expands, maybe there's some sort of partnership on that. So I guess, yeah, we have like 10 minutes left or so. And I wanted to talk about some of the wisdom that you've been able to gain around purpose. One thing for me, just selfishly about business, because I'm CEO of a business right now and Phil's my partner. You talked about, like, at a certain point in a startup's growth, like, this leadership function needs to stop being the chief everything officer and step back more into a traditional CEO role. You need to learn how to activate and leverage intrinsic motivation of team members. Tell me more about what you've learned about building a company culture and getting people really bought into your vision and executing on it consistently over a sustained period of time. I want to know, like, what the secret magic sauce is for that.
Yeah, well, you sort of said it. So when you're beginning a startup, the only thing that matters is revenue and product and cash flow. And if you can't get product market fit, you're never going to have the time to build a culture. So you do have to start in the first 2 years building intently focused on selling and product development and building a sustainable cash flow engine. Once you have a basic product market fit, you've got your first sales and you're starting to hire your people, then you move away from being chief everything officer into being chief executive officer. And the role of a chief executive officer is to hire, recruit, hire, retain, inspire great people who are more capable than they are at doing their job. And at that point, your job is to maintain relationships with top customers, to set the overall strategy of the business, to help guide product development, and then to recruit and retain great people. And that's your only role as a CEO in the sort of year 3, year 4, year 5 of a business. So you shift from being chief everything officer to chief executive officer. As Michael Gerber writes in the book, The E-Myth, you need to get out of your own way, and you need to build systems at scale. And if you're going to build a company past $1 million in sales, you have to build systems that enable your company to make sales while you're sleeping. If you're not making sales while you're sleeping, you're never going to have a scalable business. Imagine if Tesla stopped selling cars when Elon Musk went to sleep for his 5 hours a night. Obviously, that doesn't happen. They sell cars 24/7. So that's what I've learned. And once you do have, say, a couple dozen people, then your job is to bring those people together, provide them a clear purpose statement for the business, not one of those mission statements that are bland, our company's role is to produce widgets that drive shareholder value, but actually what is the meaningful reason your company exists? How are you helping society by existing as a business? And companies that have both accountability to results and a clear purpose have been shown by Harvard Business School researcher and professor Rebecca Henderson to outperform companies that only have accountability or only have purpose. And so the key is to have clear purpose and clear accountability to results. And when you have both of those things, you end up having a really positive culture that people really want to work at.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And when you say accountability to results, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, you've seen companies that don't succeed, and maybe you've worked at companies where they have a lot of good people that are really well-meaning, but they don't have that killer instinct. They don't have the hunter instinct. They don't have the ability to get customers to buy a product. And ultimately, if you don't have that ability to sell within your organization, you're not going to build a successful business, just period. And so you need within an organization, let's say you hire a salesperson and you give that person a quota of $1 million a year in sales. And let's say that you're the sales manager and that person, that's now a year later, that person comes in at $100,000 for the year. Well, you've got a choice. Do you keep that person on or do you let that person go? And obviously the right answer there is you need to let that person go very quickly. And so it's important to have compassion and heart as you're building a business. And you have to realize you're building a business where the number one rule of business is cash flow. And so if you have good cash flow and you have a purpose that's bigger than yourself, that is the secret to transformative success.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And is there a parallel outside of business as you're kind of not needing to do things? It seems as if you don't need to do things for your own personal financial benefit anymore. Maybe I'm wrong, but when you sell a company for 9 figures, I imagine that takes a back seat to really figuring out what your purpose is and how to really align your impact there. Outside of just a purely capitalist business structure, do you find a lot of the same principles are true around having clear purpose and having accountability to results, or is there another kind of recipe for success in more of the social enterprise space?
So I want to make a difference between business and life. So in a world of business, you have to have both accountability to results as well as a bigger purpose. In life, you have to have a bigger purpose and you have to have happiness. Those are the two things that are requisite. You could imagine someone who is very purpose-driven to achieve a goal that's very important to them, but ultimately is not happy with the life that they're living. That's not a recipe for success. And so the recipe for success in life is a combination of clarity of purpose, living a life where your work is in alignment with your purpose. The way you make money is something that you love doing. And if the way that you make money is in alignment with what you love, then you tend to work on it, that extra effort to have the persistence to get through the ups and downs so that you can actually build into a successful organization. And there's so many components of life that are important outside of work. When I was 27, I sold iContact, about 169 million. That didn't all go to me, but enough went to me that I could take the next 10 years to spend time going to festivals, going to Burning Man, going to various events and gatherings around the world where I would meet really inspiring leaders and really inspiring artists and creators. And through that, in 2018, literally at Burning Man 2018, I met my wife, Morgan, and we shared a similar vision for the type of more beautiful world that we wanted to build together. And now we are working on a business on the side together that she's leading up called Love Monsters, which is a stuffed animal business. And so now she designs and paints these animals, hands paints them. And then we turn them into stuffed animals and NFTs and also music. And so that's an exciting business that I'm now working on with my partner. That's really fun for me. And so there's so much outside of work in terms of your relationships, your family, your children, your hobbies, and to have a really good life, you need to have both a purpose and to be clear about what are the other elements of life, like family, that will make you a really happy, well-rounded person.
Beautiful. And then just to kind of like synthesize it too between life and business, it seems like leadership is really something that is super top of mind for you as kind of the skill or the vehicle that you're going to create this synthesis of like happy humans that are doing something really beneficial for the world. Tell me more about like what you've learned about leadership. What is your interpretation of leadership's importance in this whole mix?
Well, I want to make a distinction between management and leadership because a lot of people get them confused. Management is the guiding of other people toward an efficient, effective result, right? It's sort of bland. Management is important. If you have employees that are not doing their work, you need to mentor them and then eventually let them go if they're not improving. So management's important, but really what matters in life isn't management. That can be purchased as a commodity. What really matters in life is, as a business, is leadership. And what leadership is setting a clear vision for the future and guiding people toward it. That's what leadership is. Leadership is figuring out for yourself and for your organization, why are you alive? And if you don't know why you're alive and you don't know why your business is alive, you're never going to know where to guide the people. You remember that famous scene at Braveheart, in Braveheart, the movie, where the Scottish warrior led his team of warriors toward a mission that they believed in by giving them a really riveting speech at the beginning. And so ultimately, if you can't give an authentic, riveting, moving communication to your team about why they are using their life to do something that is bigger than themselves, then you're not a leader. So what leaders are people that use the concept of purpose to get clear for themselves about why they're alive, to get clear for their business about what their bigger mission is, and then guide their team toward achieving that mission in a way that achieves their company's professional goals and the individual's personal goals. So that's what leadership is.
Wow. That's beautiful. You think you could have said that when you were 27 ending eye contact, or does this come after years of reflection?
Yeah, I think I could have said that 10 years ago, but I couldn't have said it at the beginning of iContact. I think too many quote unquote leadership training programs are really just managerial training programs. You cannot have a leadership training program that doesn't start with the concept of purpose.
Right. Well, I know you're buttoned up against a meeting coming up in a few minutes, so I just wanted to give you an opportunity to share how people can plug into what you're focusing on. What is, if someone was, feeling drawn to living more purposeful, being a leader, maybe doing some sort of social enterprise business or creating a nonprofit or something of that nature, how can they plug into what Ryan Alice is putting in the world?
Yeah, so check out hive.org. We put on workshops about every 3 or 4 months. We'll be doing the next one in Austin in the fall. And if you're interested in digital assets and crypto, I write a weekly newsletter called CoinStack. So check out coinstack.substack.com. And I'm just really happy to be here. It's been great to see you again, Philip. It's great to meet you, Tunner, and happy to be of support as you grow your business in the years to come.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been beautiful to have you on the show. I'm really happy for this 2-year journey of hearing about you and having Phil so excited. And then now it took shape today. I think this is the beginning of something much more to come in the future. Thanks for being a part of this.
Thanks,
yeah,
everybody.
cool. Yeah, thank you, Ryan.